On average, people rack up as much debt as they possibly can. Making the minimum payment isn't that difficult as long as they are employed. Doing so allows them to maintain a particular image they desire. Carrying insane levels of debt allows these people to use things they technically can't afford, but instead pay them off over a long period of time. This is a never-ending cycle that will result in massive levels of bankruptcy. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at debt, we're going to look at real estate, and more. Let's begin. U.S. household net worth and nominal GDP. You can see the black line, nominal GDP, red line is the net worth. And although I don't agree with the nominal GDP statistics, let's just take it for what it is. Something changed in the 90s. And ever since, it's never been the same. So what you can see here is that as time goes on, since this moment, these two separate and never revert back to the mean. Okay? So you'll see that they escalate higher and higher each time. They do revert, but not all the way back to that GDP line. Okay, you can see that every time, as I said, higher and higher. More aggressive on the way down, in fact. Okay, and we know that will be the case again. So what you'll see, as I mentioned previously, we were seeing these two being correlated. Ever since the 90s came, that wasn't the case. All right, so now we are in a stage where we don't know where it will head, when it will stop. So we put that question mark there. Same with the GDP, although it is more predictable. As I said, I don't necessarily agree with that statistic. But take a look at these for a moment. And understand that there has to be, at some point, a change, right? Eventually, it will revert. Not all the way back, but it will have to revert. It's going to be a serious decline. It's going to look like it's falling off a cliff, just based on statistics. Now, what we are looking at is the U.S. household net worth. How is it that people are so rich these days? But I'll show you the fraud. Now, if the GDP, I don't agree with this, but if the GDP is, let's say, real wealth of the country, then household net worth, I would like to point out, this is really, really focused on how much debt, how much financing that there is. That's what you need to understand. It's not people buying a house, for example, with cash, buying their Lamborghini or their Mercedes with cash. They finance it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, nobody really, most people don't have money to buy a home with cash. It's not very realistic. So what's happening today is that people finance it. Okay, they finance all their big ticket items, and that's fine, except let me show you something. Saving rates by wealth class. So look at these statistics here. You can see that, let's focus on the top two for a moment. The top 10% to 1%, although they haven't saved like they once did back when interest rates were at a reasonable level, although these people haven't been able to save like that, they've still saved more than 10%, okay? And then you look at the top 1%, always historically, for the most part, saving large sums of money. Okay, that's the top 1%. We'll leave them out of this. The bottom 90%, okay, the average person, not the people at the very, very bottom, right? We're talking about the bottom 90%. Most people, 9 out of 10 people, think about this, they save nothing. They are saving absolutely nothing. So I always pointed out, interest rates, obviously, they're at the bottom. Nobody saves anything today. Number one, because of the fact that it's not worth it. It's really not worth it to save. So what do? Well, they basically spend it all. They spend it on whatever they can. And this is not a good thing necessarily. Of course, for the Federal Reserve, for the governments, they want people to spend as much as possible. They don't encourage savings, and we know that. We know that because they devalue the currency all the time, trying to make you spend it before it devalues. It's really what they do. Your savings account, no matter where you live around the world, is going to give you somewhere between 0 and, if you're lucky, 2%. Or if you live in a very, very high inflation environment, then you're going to get a better return on your savings, but still you're in an environment of, continuously diminishing returns here. Doesn't matter what the bank is going to offer you, even if it's 10, 20%, I'm sure your inflation is probably higher. Doesn't often equate. And we have a problem here that individuals have been using debt to its absolute maximum. And this is fine as long as everything stays status quo. But I assure you, it's not. Things are changing. Things are changing right now, and people are not prepared. All right. And that's why I wanted to get into this. This is just one example. I'm not talking about this company specifically, but it's something that I always like to think about when I talk to people about the issue that they are encountering. CIBC. Directly on their website, they encourage this process. Buying a home using a home equity line of credit. So with their Home Power Plan, you can take advantage of the equity you have in your existing home to buy another property. You can combine a line of credit and a mortgage in order to consolidate all of your personal credit under one simple, low interest and secured borrowing solution, which can be adjusted to meet your changing needs. So wonderful, so generous. They even give you all the tips right here. No prepayment penalty, reusable credit, possible tax deductions, and so much more. So this is a good plan for people who want to take on more debt. So essentially what a lot of people do is they have this equity that's being built up in their home because the prices keep rising. So they use that equity and think, they go to their bank and say, we want to buy a secondary home, a vacation home, a summer home, a winter home, whatever that might be. And they can use the equity. That's what they're told by their banker. It's a great way to be able to continuously grow your assets. That's what they'll tell you. But ultimately, you don't really own any more. You can use both homes, but you don't really own it. Just like a car, if you're leasing it, do you really own the car? Is it your car? Or is it the person you are financing it from, the company you're financing it from? That's what is really, really shocking, because a lot of people, they consume, they max out their credit cards, line of credits, home equity line of credit, doesn't matter. Take it all, and they use that to buy things, okay, whatever that might be. It's a very dangerous policy. Okay, that's not being discussed. It's being encouraged. You could see it right here. It's being encouraged. The media encourages it. The financial industry encourages it. The government encourages it. And the general, populace will encourage this as well. Not good. Everything is fine when interest rates are low, and nothing is fine once interest rates rise. This video went on way too long, so I needed to split it up in 2 parts. Make sure you click on the link in the description of this video to take you over to part 2. I'm going to get into the debt situation. I'm going to talk about how that interconnects with real estate. And I think this is so important because people have consumed so much and they put everything they can into their homes, and then they take everything out in the form of equity. And this is a very big mistake that individuals have made. And it doesn't matter if you are in Toronto and Vancouver or you're in Manhattan and San Francisco. No matter where you look around the world, you will see the same issue. Way too much consumption, way too much debt. And this is all racing towards this perfect storm that has been created. So make sure you click on that link in the description. I'll see you there.